welcome. Today I have a piece for my small art ring journal, and let's get started. I start with a piece of 3.5 by 5 mixed media paper. Bristol Smooth is what I use, and I'm going to use some old paper, distress ink, and a stencil just to do some dots on top of the white card. And I'm going to dry that up a bit. I'm going to do some stamping. This is a stamp from Simon Says Stamp, and it comes in a set of 2 different leaf patterns, and I think it's really cute. I'm stamping with Versamark because I'm going to emboss. And I'm gonna hindsightedly use my anti-static bag. Should have used that prior, but I'm just gonna touch up around. And I'm going to use embossing glaze from Tim Holtz in the color Crushed Olive. And there's a few spots that I'm just going to brush off some excess embossing glaze, and the rest goes back in the pot. Going to heat up my heat tool. And emboss it. I'm going to put my stencil back in place as best I can, and I'm going to be using some micro glaze and just go over the dots. Usually put a little bit on my mat. And I use the smaller, the mini blending tool, just because it helps spread that around in the stencil. And I'm just going row by row so that I can hopefully get every circle. And you get it on your mat, and even when I'll be smooshing this into some color, and it will get on my mat there. And I found it kind of sticks to your mat, at least my mat, which hardly anything sticks to my mat. But this does slightly, and if I take some hand sanitizer and just kind of rub it in, it brings it right up. It just won't wipe off easily with a baby wipe like everything else does. So I'm putting some speckled egg distress ink on my mat, and then just gonna press it in. And I find it just is not giving enough color, and so I dry it so that I can layer another color on. And I think I still use speckled egg, but yeah. So I have an Oxide spray and spray that on, and I'm using some water just to kind of let it move around a bit. And dry it up. And I'm knocking it back a little bit. I want to make sure I get it off the dots, at least at the top of the sky, because that's going to be lighter. I leave it in place in some of the lower, because that's going to be darker anyways. And there were some spots that didn't have any color, so I just moved it around with my brush. So now I'm going to be adding some deeper blues in some of the areas, like around the edges and the bottom. Mainly where the grassy stamp is. And the first color I'm using here is Faded Jeans. And then I'm going to go in a little bit darker, closer to the edges, and going to use Uncharted Mariner. And then just slightly with the Uncharted Mariner, just at the very tips, just to kind of frame it in. stamp I used was hollow leaves. It was just like the outlines of them. So I'm gonna grab some peeled paint. I have it in an Oxide, which has more pigment in it. So I'm using that in a very tiny brush and just filling in some of the empty, or all of the empty leaves. Makes the leaves pop out a lot more. And I sped this up quite a bit so you didn't have to sit through the whole time. Almost done. I'm going to dot around with some gold Posca Paint Pen just to kind of give a little ethereal shimmer in the sky. And I dot quite a bit in the dots that are there, the larger dots, and even draw some circles around some of the dots. And by that I mean the dots that I did originally with the old paper distress ink. Just a few of those, random. And make sure that's dry. So I was thinking of a butterfly, but then when I was looking, I had these two dragonflies, which I'm not particularly a big dragonfly person, but I thought they went with the color pretty well. So I had cut out most of them except for like the head and the antlers or the feet. And so I just did the final fussy cutting of that, added a little bit of distress vintage photo to the edges of it, And then I want them to come away from the page a little bit. So I do glue some scraps down on the backs of the dragonflies just to kind of elevate them. But I guess first I'm going to be giving some ephemera on the bottom. Just a bit. Most of this, all of this, is Tim Holtz ephemera. I won't even begin to try to figure out which ephemera packs these came from. I have, if not all of them, most of them. So, and I do separate it out, but I usually grab a few pieces and then I don't remember which one it came from. I know I have a number strip. That's the one I put on the bottom. I also have some collage strips sitting out because I had thought about using something from there, and I don't end up using anything from the collage strips. I was looking for things that were blue or green. And here's where I start adding little scraps, and it wasn't really easy because of the odd shapes. It's not like that's a big round flower. So I'm putting some on the wings and the body, and maybe even a little extra on the body to make it a little bit more elevated. bend the wings back just a bit to help them come off the page. And I do the same to the little one. And I put it on the body, even the long extended part of the body, because I don't want that to come and get ripped off or tear. And the last thing I'm going to do is add a sentiment, and I'm taking this from the clippings, right? That's clippings. Yeah, clipping sticker book, and it says the beauty of the day. And I also have to, because this is for my art ring journal, I'm going to be punching a hole in the top and adding an eyelet. But then that will be it. So if you have not subscribed, I invite you to do that. If you like this piece and you want to give me a thumbs up, I'd appreciate that. Either way, I hope you have an awesome day, and I've got some final pictures coming up, so stay tuned for that, and I'll see you next time.